And one of our guests is going to come on early. I'm so excited. So we have Miss Catherine Byers Breet in the wing in our little waiting room. And I cannot wait to bring her on. But let's just get her on here, Nina. I don't need to intro her. Hey.
Good morning. You got to be kidding me. I love telling people about wingmen. I love it that you were talking about this morning. It's so helpful.
Yes, it is. And by the way, we have a little lag on you. Just maybe give it a second to kind of catch up. But yeah, I this wingman thing works, and I preach that all the time. If you're an introvert, if you're a quiet person, get somebody loud and obnoxious like me to take you to or Kat to take you to one of these events and kind of be your hype man. Yeah. You know, seriously, it works.
You know, we love it too, us extroverts. If we've got a mission, like if Catherine and I were to go to an event together and it was all about her for the night and I was hunting for opportunities for her, I have so much more fun. So people will love to do that with you.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah, get you a salesperson that you know or something like that. Just somebody that will go out and represent you well and will just start the conversation and then you take it from there. Yeah. It works. Exactly. So we're talking about creative solutions for the holidays because the holiday season, as you and I know, grinds to a halt in hiring, but it's still there, right? So what are some creative solutions you would have for job seekers right now?
Well, one of my most popular talks is called Happy Holiday Handshaking. And it's tough this year, right? You don't have ugly sweater parties that you can go to. So, but, my biggest advice for people is get on it, lean in, because the rest of the job seekers are giving up and they're waiting until January. Did you already say this?
I didn't know, but keep going. It's fine.
Okay. The problem is everybody else is hanging up their boots. And then in January, the floodgates open. And so your competition in November and December is like a little bit. And then in January, the floodgates are open. So do it now, lean in. And then there's a little insider secret about the holidays. People are more generous with their time. So networking is always like, if you're new to it, especially if you're an introvert, it's uncomfortable and scary. But during the holidays, people are much more likely to say yes to a phone call, yes to a virtual coffee. And if you're living in Florida, like Catherine, they might even meet you outside for a cup of coffee, like in real life. So the holiday spirit is going to be bigger and better this year. Mm-hmm. Despite the noise, people are going to be more human. Take advantage of it.
Yes, 100%.
They'd love to help you. And there's so many things to talk about. Don't talk politics. Don't talk religion. Ask them if they're going to the Holidazzle parade. Ask them what they do for fun over Thanksgiving. Mm-hmm. So many easy conversation or openers before you tell them you're looking for a job. So don't start with, I need a job. That doesn't work.
It does not. It doesn't. And and don't get me wrong, I'm a very direct person, so I admire the direct approach. I appreciate the direct approach, but it very seldom works. And one thing I've actually been doing, folks, just for my own educational purposes, I've been getting on LinkedIn and going, okay, what does it take to actually get people to start a conversation with you? So I started with like 4 different types of messages. I sent them all out. The 2 that got the best response were the direct approach, which only got 1 positive response. And then the 2 of my versions got completely ignored. And then the last one that was just very conversational and just, hey, I'm just networking with you. Hey, what's up? Got great response. Started some real conversations. And by the way, with people that may turn out to be clients of mine at some point. Yes. So it really be conversational. She's 100% right. The things that did not work at all, by the way, I tried hey, here's, this bit of information. I thought it might help you because people keep telling me that works. It doesn't.
No,
nobody cares. No. Yeah.
We're all, I don't know what is happening on LinkedIn. I think it's a bunch of marketing firms that are saying, I'll get you leads. It's aggressive. It's in your face, which is such a mistake because LinkedIn makes it so easy. Like you can't throw a stick at somebody's LinkedIn profile without finding some common ground. So my advice is before you ask for anything or pitch anything, find common ground. Hey, yes. Catherine and I are mutual connections. So if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, say, hey, Catherine McCord? Yeah. instant,
Yeah.
instant good juju. Like I instantly am like, yeah. So
Yes.
mutual connections. You went to the same
Comment.
school. You're both
Yes.
scuba divers. You both are writers. You both are authors. You both worked for an old company.
You like their post. You like their post. Yes. Comment on their post first.
Stroking goes always works.
100% of the time, let me tell you, it does. Yeah, but just find a way to connect people. I know it's more time consuming, but it's not as much as you might think. So I did that too. I decided to say, okay, how long does this really take? So I did what you're saying. I just kind of went through a profile real quick, looked at some activity. It took me literally 11 seconds to locate something that I had in common with somebody and then just send a quick message. So, and from start to finish, this process took me less than 30 seconds to find something I had in common and to message that person.
Yeah, and just make it personal.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing. You and I have been recruiting for years. And back in the day, it was all buttoned up suits, high heels, formal. People don't want that anymore. They want to know that you are a human being, that you eat lunch and occasionally burp. And I mean, they want to know that you're human. So be human first. I promise you, if you find something in common and just start a little conversation, they will be willing to go out of their way to chat with you and help you in whatever it is.
Yes. And to kind of start to segue into your actual topic today. And by the way, thank you for coming on earlier. We had a guest that had a catastrophe, and Catherine was very generous and decided to join us early. So one of the things that's really interesting to me that a lot of people miss is that you can spot a bad boss or a bad company during the initial messaging and just by paying attention to what's on their page and their posts and things like that. And a lot of people don't realize that. So as you're going through, so I'm going to start this, and then I'm dying to hear your take, but there's one thing that really gets me. And it's so obvious that when you hear it, you go, oh my gosh, right. And that's if all of their posts are self-centered, whether it's about the company or about them and yay me, I'm so great. You don't want to work for that. That is not a person that is, or a company that is going to help you grow as a professional. That is not useful. So what are some of your other, as you're looking on LinkedIn or looking on job boards even, what are some of the big red flags that go, whoa, do not want to work here?
You know, it's interesting. I usually say to people, you can't judge a book by its cover. Don't give up until you've had at least one conversation with them. But I actually love what you're saying. I hadn't actually thought about that, but you're right. If everything they do, it's all about them, run for the hills, because they'll be a star stealer. You'll be a rock star at work and you'll save the company $3.5 million and they'll somehow find a way to take credit for it. So you're absolutely right about that. But in those conversations, if they are aggressive and it's all about them, so once you start talking, if they never ask you, hey, how are you doing? Or how can I help you? If it's all about them in those conversations, that's a red flag.
Yes.
If they're really aggressive, so let's talk about recruiters and throw them under the bus a little bit. I got a call from somebody a couple of months ago, and he had a job offer from a company he wasn't sure he wanted. And the recruiter, so he was going through an external recruiter. And he was considering the offer, but he wanted a night to sleep on it. And that recruiter called him and texted him and emailed him and said, you're a fool if you don't take this job. I need to.
Oh my gosh.
I know. You need to make a decision right now. And he called me practically in tears. He was 26 years old. He was like, oh my gosh, did I do something wrong? And I said, no, you are dealing with a jerk that starts with an A and ends with something else. You know, not okay, not acceptable behavior. No. Do not let anybody bully you into taking an offer until you sleep on it and you review it line by line and you come back. And so, you know, if you're dealing with a recruiter who is just aggressive, rude, blah, 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 I'd say ditch them. But Catherine, what if it's an agency recruiter and the job opportunity is at a company you'd love and you're not going to have to work for that recruiter? Then what? Should they throw it
Just suck it up.
I'm with you. Yeah.
Just suck it up. You're going to get rid of them soon anyway. Who cares? Like just and deal with the hiring and deal with the hiring manager as much as you can, and the company HR as much as you can if that's the case. Yeah. So just cut them out of it.
Here's what I did with Eric. I was like, no, you're going to not respond to the jerk. let him freak out, blah, blah, blah. You're going to go to the hiring manager.
Yeah.
So I told him to ignore the recruiter and go straight.
Yeah, just ignore him. Now, I am going to play devil's advocate real quick here. Now, I'm sure this is not the case with your guy. It sounds like this recruiter was unprofessional anyway, and you should never be spoken to that way. But I've been on the other side of that, where we discussed everything. I asked the candidate flat out, what do you need to accept an offer? They thought about that, got back to me. I get an offer letter that is 100% what they wanted. Oh, I got to talk to my spouse. Why did you not already do that? We went through this whole thing. So candidates, the other side of it is help yourselves a little bit. Okay, guys, like talk to your spouse. When you get to that kind of the final stages and you know when the final stages are, start talking to them. Go, is this really something we want to do? Yada, yada. There's nothing wrong with, by the way, I just want to specify, I don't mind an overnight. I've had candidates that are like, I need like 48 hours. I need the weekend.
Yeah. No.
Why? That's ridiculous. Well, like, come on.
But Catherine, you're a good recruiter. You are a good recruiter. Asking the money questions and all of the other negotiables throughout the process. You're not waiting until the witching hour. So all the recruiters that are rookies, that are brand new at this game, if you're waiting until the end of the hiring process to ask about money and stuff, you're going to end up with candidates that stall you for days. So that's your fault.
Yes, it is 100%. You should be having that conversation early at the end of the initial phone call. Yeah. That should be a conversation. So real quick on that note, problem solving, right? So that's our whole theme this time is problem solving. So when you get this bad recruiter, right? And it could be in the company, be an agency recruiter. If you still decide that you want that job, which if they're agency, it really shouldn't deter you at all. If they're inside the company, maybe so.
I'm with you.
Yeah, maybe that might be a little telling. But if you decide that you want the opportunity, here's what you need to do. You need to start setting the pace. Don't wait on them. Go, okay, so we're at this stage. All right, I need to get you this information so we can get this offer letter. Here's everything that I need. Bam. Say, I have to put in a 2-week notice. You want me to start in 15 days. So I need the offer letter tomorrow so that I can get that in so I can meet your deadline. So kind of take the bull by the horns and just start steering that process a little bit.
Absolutely. And you and I have both helped people get multiple job offers doing this strategy all the time, you know? And you'd think, well, why would a recruiter help people get multiple offers? Because we want you to say yes to our offer and we want you to stick. Here's what we don't want. We want you to evaluate if you are like, you know, I've got 2 other companies that are chasing me. All right. So why do you want those offers? And really pushing you to evaluate this company versus the other 2. You want to get multiple offers at the same time so you can make the decision and go. What Catherine doesn't want is to place you and have you quit in 2 months because one of the other companies popped. That is not good for anybody.
No. And I will say too, guys, if you are experiencing something negative with HR, that really does tell you something about the company. There is no HR is terrible, everybody else is great. No, because let me tell you that half of what HR does is dictated by what everybody else is doing. If they're taking forever, they're having to wait on other people. If they're snooty, it's because that's the company culture. Okay, there is no, this is HR and this is everybody else. HR is the representation of that company. It's just like if you wouldn't do business with a company if the sales guy is rude to you.
Right.
So
HR is the sales guy. They are the face of the company.
Yeah, it's true. On the recruiting side of it, yes, absolutely, 100%. Yeah. So we've kind of talked about, so that's kind of some ways to spot some craziness. Look for rudeness, look for delays, that kind of thing. And when you're looking at job postings, look for the companies that are being as forthcoming as possible, that aren't trying to kind of snipe some things in there and be sneaky with you. Look for that kind of thing, and look for companies that match your values. Guys, look for companies that match what you believe in. Okay. And it's really easy to find that out. Get on their social media, get on their website, that kind of thing. Find values. So let's talk about your topic, crazy bosses, and how to spot them and how to deal with them.
Before we talk about Crazy Ray, I actually have a freebie for everybody about how to spot company culture before you sign on the dotted line. So I can put this in the chat and you can share it however you want. Hopefully I can chat. Let me grab. Yeah. So it's 11 questions they can ask during the hiring process to figure out if it's a good match for values, if they're going to be happy there. So there, I just sent that to Nina. So Nina, that's a freebie. There we go. And Nina's going to put it.
There we go.
Yeah. Yep. So I built this 11 questions to ask to help you during the hiring process to come across as professional, enthusiastic, and prepared, but to get at the heart of the company culture and the management style. And will you be happy? So there you go. Merry early Hanukkah and Christmas, everybody.
No, and you do need to have those kinds of questions. 100%. You need to be asking cultural questions, things like that, not just about the pay and all that, because that's not ultimately what's going to keep you there. Is there opportunity for growth? Am I going to be getting raises, and what is the plan for that? How is that handled? What is your policy about internal growth and education, that kind of thing? All of those things need to be asked and understood. And their ethics. Do they share your ethics? You don't want to be in a company that's Christian based if you're Muslim, or maybe you do, but that may not quite work out.
Listen, a friend of mine worked for a company that was all about we're all Christian, and those people were doing all sorts of crooked things.
It's true.
It's like dirt. It was a staffing firm, and blah. So anyway,
yes. So dig in, and don't just take, as she's saying, don't just take a face value and some just one statement and say, oh, well, this is the company culture.
But let's also say you also have to be careful not to just take what one friend says. I do want you to go out and check out Glassdoor so that you can ask better questions, but you've got to be very careful about rejecting a company without snooping it out yourself. I quit a job after 3 months. Speaking of bad bosses, I quit a job after 3 months because it was so bad. My husband looked at me after 4 weeks and he said, I don't know who you are, but I want my wife back. You've got to quit that job. So I did. I quit that job and got a better one. But a buddy of mine called me 3 months later and said, hey, I'm interviewing with this company. Should I just ditch them? And I said, no, wait a minute. What's the position? Who's the boss? What's the job? And I said, I will tell you honestly why I hated it, but you're you, I'm me. You're at a different stage of your career. He was new to recruiting. I'd been in it for years. So I advised him to follow the interview process through. And I had a couple of hard questions to ask. He took the job and he was there for 6 years and he got promoted twice.
See, it's just different strokes for different folks. And plus, if they get rid of a problem person, that can make all the difference. All the difference. So crazy bosses, let's talk about it. Because this is something, even in the interview process, and then once you're there, that people are constantly having to deal with. So let's go. Let's hear it. What do you got to say, lady?
Okay, first of all, a bad job is bad for your health. So let's cut to the chase. You are worth it, and you deserve to have a job that you feel good about going to every day. If you are getting berated, treated like dirt, undermined, lied to, you got to get out of there. Now, whether
the lied to, yes.
Now, can you afford to cut cold turkey? I don't know. Do you have money in the bank? In this job market, I'd like to have you have another job lined up before you jump ship, but sometimes you got to get it out of there. So a bad job is going to cost you 41% more in healthcare costs, twice the rate of depression, stress, disease, heart disease. It's bad for you. So bad bosses. Let's talk about why basses become why basses. We don't want basses as a boss. That would not be helpful. Basses as a boss. I would argue that if somebody's a rotten boss, they're in the wrong job. They're either in the wrong job or they're in the wrong company culture. I've had bad bosses who were jerks because they were working for jerks.
That's true.
So if you've got a bad boss, I recommend you first take a step back and say, define bad. Are they hardcore with the numbers? Well, maybe that's not a bad boss. Maybe you're in a sales job and you have to perform to succeed. Maybe you're in the wrong job. Maybe it's not the boss.
Yes.
Maybe you're in the wrong job.
Yeah, totally. It happens. Real quick, we have a question. What do you say in an interview when you talk about a bad job that you left?
It's a tricky one.
I like that one. I like that. You can take that one first. Let's see what you've got to say about it.
Okay, so you had a bad boss. What do you say? A couple of thoughts. you have to figure out how to answer this before the interview.
Yes.
So when I'm prepping people for interviews, you've got to take the time to ask yourself, what's the job? What questions am I afraid of? What are the things I really hope they don't ask me? And practice answering those scary questions. Now, if you had a job that you quit or you got fired or laid off, squeezed out, and it was really a bad situation, you're going to have to unpack that baby. You are going to have to open the closet, let the skeleton out, let it dance its crazy dance, and get really honest with yourself. Why was that job so bad for me?
Yep.
What was out of my control? What was in my control? What lessons did I learn? So you got to do this self-discovery and then figure out how to package it.
Yes.
You should not air all your dirty laundry in a job interview. And if you'd made a stupid mistake, we all make mistakes. You don't have to talk about that in the interview. So you got to figure out what to talk about that's honest and believable, but probably not the whole story. Because if you worked for a terrible boss, you might have done some things you're not proud of. So you got to figure out how to answer that question.
Yes. And one thing too, guys, I just want to add on to that real quick, is don't trash the old company. Okay. That is imperative. Even if they were awful. Okay. I want to make this real clear. It doesn't matter if the truth is that they were just despicable, because I have seen that, but it's not going to help you in an interview. So what I would say in that case, let's just say the company was just god awful. Just say, I got into that position and there were some great things about the job that I liked, but the company was just not the right fit for me. Yeah. Culturally, I just could not, just couldn't click. So I decided to go ahead and step away. There you go. They will get the point. Okay. They'll understand. If they want to probe, they might, but start with something like that. It gets the point across, but it's classy. If you were fired because you just weren't good at the job, because it happens, guys, you'd be a great employee. You could be a great employee in so many roles, but sometimes you just find something. It's like, well, I just stunk out loud at this, it's okay. So you just say, I got in there. I gave it my best shot. They tried to find something else for me because I was a great employee, but it just didn't work out with that job. So now I'm pursuing other opportunities that do highlight my strengths.
Yeah. And so the formula, that's what we want to hear on the hiring side of the desk. We want to know, are you self-aware?
Yes.
Are you lying, or are you kind of owning your piece of the pie here? Just tell me quick and dirty why you left the job and what lessons did you learn? And so you sandwich, here's why I took the job. I was really excited. I loved this, this, and this. Here's this one thing that just was not a good fit for me. What I learned is that this is a really good fit, and then flip it forward, which is why I'm excited to talk to you, Janine, because I think this role with you is a great fit for me and blah, blah, blah. So quick, and then flip to the forward. Here's why I'm excited to talk to you.
Yes, 100%. And when you've had a bad boss, a lot of things will kind of trickle down. So do just kind of hone it down to be something simple. Do not drone on and on about it. Just precise, just be real precise.
And so, bag it, like bad mouthing your previous employer. You've got to not do that. And the thing of it is, if you don't deal with the baggage and face the story and face the pain, it can be almost impossible to keep that negativity out of the conversation. So you got to deal with that over here. And in all seriousness, Catherine, sometimes bad bosses, I went to go see a psychologist 3 times because of a really bad boss.
Yeah, it happens.
I needed somebody to help me sort through it and figure out I'm not nuts. She's really aggressive and hard. So don't go do that. Talk to somebody. Let somebody help you sort through it so that you don't dump all that baggage in the middle of an interview.
100%. And even into your next position, you got to back off. So when you're in the middle of dealing with a crazy boss, and there's so many different kinds. But the most common kind, I think, is you get the ones that just are unreasonable. There's just, they don't want to hear, well, this is reality. They just, I want this result. Okay. Well, for instance, I've known several sales managers that would say, well, our goal is we have to have 300 closes by this date. Well, all of our leads stopped. So how would you like us to accomplish that? Well, you just need to go out and find people to sell to. Well, I'm sorry. That's not how that works. That's going to take more time and it's going to take a while to self-generate. That's not going to happen. That's a completely different process than having inbound leads coming in all day. It's unreasonable to ask for the same number of closes, right? So the unreasonable boss, I think, is the most common crazy boss. And they don't think that they're unreasonable. And so they just, they keep demanding these ridiculous things. How do you deal with that, with the unreasonable boss?
Yeah. So, I mean, and that's, let's be honest, most of the times, bad bosses, it's in that sort of gray area.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that they aren't good at driving the ship, it's communication.
Yes.
And so, for instance, I just mentioned Crazy Ray. I mean, he used to get so angry, his face would turn purple. He'd be spitting on us. And you know what? He was in the wrong job. It was, you'll appreciate this. It was a global consulting firm, high pressure cooker, agency recruiting, and our clients would demand 3 top candidates in 24 hours. So it was a pressure worker, Wolf of Wall Street kind of pressure worker. And he just wasn't built for it. And so it got him all worked up. And while we were on the recruiting and sales team under pressure for our numbers, he was under pressure on the consulting side for numbers and margins and everything. And so he would just attack.
Yes.
And it was always somebody else's fault. So what I had to do with him, you asked me, when you asked me to come on the show, you're like, when should you go to HR? Well, I don't think you should go to HR first. I think you should try to solve it on your own first. And you're probably going to need to go and ask somebody you respect for some advice to help you sort through it, figure out what are you really upset about? What are some possible solutions? Talk through it, then sit down and approach that person and give them a chance. I mean, my recruiters used to call me the Rottweiler because I would defend them and I would stand up for them. But I went and sat down with them and I timed it. I caught him on a day when the office was quiet and we didn't have a lot of fires. And I sat down and I said, hey, can we talk about how to work more effectively together? I've been thinking about, we're in this pressure cooker. We are all under pressure, brings out the worst in all of us. This isn't working. I have some ideas about how we can do this differently. What do you think?
Yes.
He was a different man.
Collaboration.
Yeah. And I never took him to HR because I was able to solve it on my own. But sometimes you're going to try to do that and they are not. I stayed in one job despite a difficult boss. I quit 2 others in my career. Those 2 others, it was untenable. It was unmanageable. One of them was a harassment situation. There was no
We'll talk about that in just a minute.
I went to coworkers for support and they laughed at me. And I was 20 years old. I couldn't handle it. I couldn't manage it on my own. And that boss was full of just manipulating the situation. Anyway, so I quit. Sometimes going to HR is the best thing that you can do.
Yes. Sometimes it is.
Yeah.
It is. And depending on who it is doing what, that may be your best bet. And sometimes, by the way, guys, it's not that you need to pull somebody else into HR. A lot of people don't realize that. You can don't realize this. You can go to HR and just get advice.
Yes.
Just say, hey, I'm having this issue. How would you go about it? How would you deal with it? And if it's a true specialist, trust me, they will have some really good advice and some really good ideas for you. One thing, so you touched on harassment, and that is something I wanted to dig into. We're going to dig into a couple of unpleasant topics here real quick, okay? First of all, sexual harassment happens on both sides of the fence, guys. This is not a man problem. This is a people problem, okay? It is more common that a man would do it. It's just, for all the reasons that we could sit here and go into, but it does happen very often too on the other side. Believe me, I have seen it quite a bit. So, and sexual harassment is not just, a physical touch, or that's actually assault, by the way. If you touch a person, that is assault. It's not just something gross that somebody has said. Sexual harassment can be that you are constantly talking about a person's gender, okay, and making it an issue. I recently had a friend reach out to me and she said, my boss just makes everything about me being a woman. And she didn't understand. She's always been a top performer, just a kick-ass woman. I mean, I would hire her for anything. I mean, literally, she's great. She's really, really good professionally. And she goes, he just won't drop that I'm a woman. It's always coming up. It's because you're female. Oh, this is because you're female. Oh, this. She goes, I don't understand it. And she goes, and I said, well, that's a form of sexual harassment. So I gave her some ideas as to how to handle it. And she picked one and it worked. And hers was, she did kind of what you did. She called him aside. She goes, hey, look, dude, like, I'm not going to make a big deal about this, but I need you to cut it out because you're undermining me on the floor. So just stop, please. Thank you very much. And very polite. She made it, she was like very nonchalant. She's like, hey, dude, like, you're kind of undermining. That's not cool, dude. Come on, help me out here. Followed it up with an email because you want to document everything. And always BCC your personal email when dealing with this kind of thing. That way you have a record no matter what that company tries to do. You have a record that you did address this. So anytime you're going to go talk to somebody about something like this, follow up with an email and BCC your personal, BCC, not CC, BCC your personal email, and then save that email. When somebody is making it all about your gender, and I've seen guys go through this, especially guys in female, typically female fields. They go through it a lot. Yeah, they really do. And you can deal with it in a couple of ways. Okay. You can do what that friend of mine did, where you just go in there and you go, okay, that's not cool. Let's, I get it. You're just being funny or whatever, but let's kind of cut it out. And then follow it up with that email. You can go to HR if you feel like there's no way this person's going to handle it right. Like if they're just a super aggressive person and they've given you, and that you've seen them do crummy things to other employees, may want to go direct to the HR. But I'm going to give you my little tip. I have had people make things about my gender my whole career. You're too loud. You're too this. You're too that. What makes you think that? I've had literally men look at me and say, what makes you think as a woman that you can talk to me like that?
And I've had women tell me I'm too loud.
Yes. Yes. I've had women do it too.
Yeah.
And I have had guys that felt like it was constantly appropriate to hit on me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And by the way, my whole adult life, I've been in a relationship. So it's like, come on, people, but anyway, so that feel that it's perfectly appropriate to constantly hit on me, comment on my body, that kind of thing. My approach is super assertive, bordering on aggressive. And I call them out and make fun of them in front of everybody. I shut it down. I had one guy and he pulled this, he said something about my body. And it was the umpteenth time he'd done it. And I just turned around and I said, what makes you think that you have any right to talk about my body? I was like, look at how pathetic you are. And I just went on and I went off on him. I shut him down. I was like, what the hell is wrong with you? And if they're body shaming you, by the way, go off. Let them know. And if a guy is coming at you and he won't stop asking you on a date, turn around and go, what makes you think you could ever get with me? Look how sorry you are. I would never want you. Get it. Be real aggressive about it. Embarrass them in front of everyone. Trust me, it will never happen again.
Yeah, if they're
ever.
They deserve that. I also want to say, I hired people from all over the world. So I've got I married somebody from another country. So a lot of cross-cultural experience. Sometimes people don't know that they're being offensive. Now,
that too. Yeah.
For Pete's sake, that's unacceptable. If they continue to you after you've said no. But sometimes, and this is that gray area, I want to just ask everybody to, before you assume the worst about race, gender, religion, discrimination, I just want you to give the person a benefit of unless they're a complete jerk, just take a step back and say, I wonder if maybe I don't intend it this way. There are generational differences. Somebody might be older gentlemen will compliment and say, gosh, you look so pretty today. And the hair on my neck goes up. But they're actually trying to be friendly. And, they're my dad's generation. So just before you attack, just ask. But if it's publicly shaming you and embarrassing you, that's not okay. Stand up.
No. Now, if it is something, and even especially with the with some of the gender issues. For instance, a lot of men don't realize that constantly bringing up your kids is something that puts you down in a workplace, right? A lot of guys don't realize that. And so just kind of go, hey, dude, let's, kind of lay off that. Don't tie everything back to the fact that I'm a woman and I have kids. Okay. Like, I like my kids. I want to talk about them, but it doesn't need to be part of every conversation. The racial equality issue. I had a friend of mine who is Black tell me, he goes, I always give people the benefit of doubt. I just stop and go, look, I know you, I know your heart, but that really wasn't cool. And here's why. And he does it privately. He just goes, just so that you know, I know you didn't mean it. Here's this, and just has a conversation. Right. A lot of people don't realize that what they're saying is offensive.
They don't.
People,
we could talk for hours about wake up, people. It's time to wake up.
Hello.
And pay attention to the look on the person's face. If their eyeballs pop out of their head, chances are good you just said something offensive. But
yeah. But the point is, yes, have a human element on both sides, right? Have a human element. And like, I joke about everything under the sun, but I know that my sense of humor is not for everybody. So I filter it when I'm around certain groups, especially in a professional setting. I filter that very, very much. And make sure people, another thing that happens a lot is, and this happens, actually, I've seen a lot of bosses do this. I knew a great boss, actually, in general, a phenomenal human being and a great manager, but he kept insisting on leading prayer every day at the office. And this was not a Christian-based company. And don't get me wrong, I'm very, yay religion and all that kind of stuff, but it was very awkward for some people. They were like, but I don't want to do that. That's not what I do. And so it just kind of forced, and he didn't mean it as anything. And he would also tell people, God bless you, and not as when you sneeze, just in general. And it made some people really uncomfortable. So we just, like you said, had a meeting and go, like, a few of us kind of went, hey, just so you know, that's kind of bothering some people. We all know you don't mean it. We all know you're just sweet guy and that kind of thing. You're just trying to tell us that you care about us and you want us to be happy and well and all that. But please don't do that anymore.
So yes. What about in a hiring process? Let's talk about what to do if you're getting inappropriate questions.
Oh, yes.
Behavior when you're a candidate.
Yes.
What do you suggest people do?
Oh God. If they're a candidate and they're getting it, run. Run the other way. And now there are some things, again, the human element. There will be some things that people do not realize that they're being weird or rude.
Right.
Okay. And I will tell you this, ladies, if you have a giant basketball pregnant lady tummy, just go ahead and address it. Okay. Yes. Everybody knows you're going to have a baby. Just talk to them about your plan for maternity and how you're going to set yourself up for success and how, don't worry, I'm going to make sure the workload's taken care of. Yes, I am growing a human. It will not stop me from being a good employee. Hey, don't worry.
I was in that toxic job and my husband said, you've got to quit. And I said, I've only been here for a month and I'm pregnant with our second child. I can't quit. And he said, that's why you have to quit. And I said, how am I going to get a new job pregnant? And he said, of course you're going to. And I owned it. And I wore flowy clothes. And then, I was 6 months pregnant. And before they extended the offer, ripped open the flowy clothes and said, yes, this is a baby. I am growing and I am going to take maternity leave. But here's what I'm going to do to absolutely knock these numbers out of the park. And they hired me. And,
exactly.
And they let me take 3 months maternity leave.
See? Hey, and I tell you, and we had a comment from Mark saying, moving to a new country, you really need to take this subject seriously. Yes. Think about the new country and their culture. And even, like, let's say I lived in Miami for a while, right? And you could interview with people from all over the world there. Russia, Colombia, Haiti, I mean, you name it. They're just everywhere. Cuba. And all of the countries are different. Everybody had different customs. And if you're going into a company that has a certain culture, you need to consider that. And the other way around. So if you're interviewing a candidate who is new to the country, embrace that. Ask them, say, hey, how are you liking it here? What are some of the differences? what's going on? Kind of make it a fun little conversation. I love to talk to people from other countries.
I do a talk. Have a little fun with it.
Technical difficulties. There we go.
So anyway, yeah, you've got to just ask. If somebody does this, you say something, and somebody does this, check in and say,
oops.
Looks like I might have said something off there. Did I just say something offensive? Check in.
Oh, so we just had a great question, and actually, I'm going to bring on our next guest for this one too, and then we'll say bye to you. I promise you've been on here for so long. But Sophia asked, what do you do with somebody who's not your boss, keeps making inappropriate advances? Do you talk to your boss or to HR? So first of all, just shut them down publicly. Just be brutal about it. If they won't stop, because it's one thing to get asked out. That's okay. If somebody asks you out once, that's how the human race continues. Okay, guys, don't be offended by a one-time thing. Okay, but if they be like, thanks, but no thanks. No, not going to happen. And be clear that it's not going to happen. Say, no, thank you. I am flattered, but no, that's not going to happen. If it continues, make it real clear. Make it real clear. Yeah. Then if it keeps going, then you want to go to your boss first. I would say. What would you say? Boss first.
I know you got to get with your next guest. HR is wonderful, and most people get into HR because they care about human beings, but you need to remember where their bread is buttered. They are the company, and their job is to protect the company. And so sometimes you get phenomenal HR people who can advise you and guide you confidentially. They're not all that great. And so I like the idea of try to handle it yourself directly, and then go to the boss and ask the boss about how to handle this. And hopefully you got a good boss who will handle it confidentially, and then go to HR. And just know, when you elevate it, when you escalate it, you now have a situation and you might end up getting squeezed out. You need to understand that.
Yes. So that's why I try to handle it myself. And that's where that advice of make it public and make it funny and just like, no.
They'll cut it out.
Trust me, they will. All right. Well, Kat, thank you so much for coming on and hanging out with us.
Bye.
Bye.